Okay, we are live. So, just wanted to thank everyone for joining, taking time out of your Sunday to chat with me. I've gotten a lot of emails on the Children's Theater, and I think everyone's aware of our budget situation. The city is expecting, just for our general fund, which is just a small fund out of our overall budget, of a shortfall of something like $39 million. It will probably actually be more next fiscal year, which starts in July. And so staff has proposed cutting a bunch of different things, including this topic. So I know this is why a lot of you have written in. So want to just kind of open it up and go around and let everyone kind of say your thought. First, introduce yourself and say your thoughts on this topic, and then we have more of a discussion. So I'm just going to read people off as I see them on my screen here. So first person I see is Betsy, followed by Misha. So Betsy, do you want to start off?
Okay, just a few minutes, just a minute or something?
Just quickly introduce yourself and some of your thoughts on the topic.
I've been mentoring teens and young people for decades, and mostly with the Children's Theater and the Teen Arts Council. And the Teen Arts Council was formed because of the suicides in Palo Alto. And I don't think we can just take it for granted, if that's taken away, that there isn't going to be some outcome. I don't mean suicides, I just mean whatever caused those suicides. It's been very, very successful. Lots of teens come. I've been in on a lot of programs at the Children's Theater where this is the outlet. This is where they express themselves. And a lot of kids I'm even working with right now who are, at home, not seeing their friends, as if we think depression or something else isn't, anger, whatever, isn't going to set in after a while. And you need an outlet. They need an outlet. This is a beautiful outlet. This is not their phone or the computer. This is real. So I think that this couldn't be more important. I think that the friends of the theater have a proposal that they'd like you to hear. I hope they're here right now to propose it.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you, Betsy. Okay, let's go on to Misha, followed by Maya.
Yeah. My name's Lawrence. I'm Misha's dad, and we've been part of the theater for, I think, 6 or 7 years now. I've got two things. Misha wants to say 30 seconds just from his perspective, because he's been an active member of the Children's Theater. But I'd like to understand what's been the hierarchy of cuts that you are undertaking. Where does Palo Alto Children's Theater fall on the hierarchy of cuts? What's above it and what's below it?
Yeah.
So maybe after Misha's said a couple of things.
Misha, why don't you go ahead?
So I think I started Children's Theater 2 years ago, and if I compare myself back then to myself now, I've become so much more confident, and I've gotten so much better than the person that I was before. And I think there are a lot more kids, just like how I was, that need somewhere where they can learn from other people and meet other people who can help them become better people. And I think if there's nowhere for children to do that, the community takes a fall as well, because there are less people who can be the best version of themselves.
Misha. Okay. Maya, followed by Ariel.
Hi, my name is Maya Adam. I'm a faculty member in the pediatrics department at Stanford. And I'd just like to come at this from a research perspective. There is really convincing data that good quality community children's theater has a protective, measurable impact on our children's psychosocial health, certainly on their mental health and on their educational outcomes. And I think that cutting the children's theater for the entire Palo Alto community is tantamount to really making a choice against educational outcomes, against mental health outcomes, and against our children's psychosocial development. So I think we really need to think carefully before we cut back on the children's theater.
Thank you, Maya. So Ariel, followed by Sophie.
Hi, my name is Ariel Blumenfeld. I am a teenager. I've been a part of the Palo Alto Children's Theater for the past 6 or 7 years now, and I mean, I got the pleasure to work with Misha myself in a couple of performances, but the Children's Theater to me, it's genuinely home. I feel like as an 8 or 9-year-old, without this theater outlet, I don't know what I would be like right now. Genuinely, the first time I went on stage, it was just this immense spark, and I grew with this self-confidence, with these improv skills that I've developed, and the Children's Theater has given me such a family, so many opportunities, and I wouldn't trade them for anything in the world.
Okay, thank you. Sophie, followed by um, Michelle. Oh, Sophie, you're muted.
Sorry, I'm Sophie. I'm a parent of a student who joins Palo Alto Children's Theater. The impact on her over the 2 years has been tremendous. This Palo Alto Theater Company, it's over 100 years old. It's a crown jewel of Palo Alto. It serves a large number of students from age 3 to 18. It just has such a vital role in our community. And to shutter this institution for 2 years would destroy something very precious that's likely not to recover. We'll lose a stellar group of artists, mentors, teachers that dedicate years to our children. The leadership include Judge Lucky, who was attracted from Atlanta, and many other teachers. These people could not survive for 2 years, and they will be forced to leave, and recovering this program and reinstate this program will be difficult and too late for our children. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sophie. Okay, Michelle, followed by Lake Shimi.
Yes. Hello.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Michelle Wang. And what I want to say is that my daughter has been involved in the Children's Theater since she was 8 years old. And she's now 14. And it has been a second home for her. And she has been a child that I have tried to find a lot of things for her. Like there's a lot of sports in our community and a lot of, and really the sports focused outlets, but there's very few arts focused outlets. And these kids are some of the kids that really need a home and really need a group of friends that can love them. And she has found that not only in the other children from the Palo Alto Children's Theater, but also in the staff. And she stops in on her way home from high school to say hello. And she feels like she's accepted from everyone there. And it has been she suffers from mental health issues, and it's been a godsend for her. So that is why I'm also on the Friends of the Palo Alto Children's Theater board. And I know in working with Judge and Marika, we are working on a budget, and I think we have some solutions that could help keep the staff in place. And that's what I'd really like to talk to you about is I think there's a way that we can do it. I know that they said they needed to cut 1.28 million from their budget. So I know the general fund is, the Children's Theater makes up about 0.3% of the revenue, but you're asking them to cut over 3% but they're taking up a lot more. I'm sorry, they're taking up over 3% in cuts. So I'm not sure actually where you're asking them to cut, but I know that their staff would go down to almost zero. And they are really trying to do virtual programming. They are trying to do team programming. They're looking at doing virtual classes. They're looking at doing safe programming in early 2021, so that also when when restrictions get lifted, they have to be able to pivot quickly and really to be able to support not only our community, but the kids that really need them.
Okay. Yeah. So, Michelle, I'd love to learn more about your ideas.
Great.
Let's move on to, I guess, Lakshmi, followed by Joanna.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me and allowing me to share my thoughts with you. As the people before me have already mentioned, this is, the Children's Theater has a lot of value for the youth of the city of Palo Alto. So I'm not going to go and delve into that further. What I will say, though, is that a couple of things stand out for me. I want to give you an idea about why this Children's Theater is special compared to other places that you might see in the Valley. They talk about it being the longest running children's theater. All those things are there. We've got excellent staff in place. That is true too. My kids have been there for many, many years, and I myself volunteer quite a bit. But what I think is exceptional about this theater is that they combine a very high quality of a production show, with a very good experience for the youth and the people who actually participate. And they do this consistently for many, many, many shows. You will hear a lot of friction that comes up when you go and you find out. I looked at some other theaters as well. Sometimes they have 2 or more kids playing the same role. There's a certain minimum amount that people have to volunteer. That's not the case here. There's no pay to play. And what this does is this creates a really good environment, and it creates really good professionalism. And I think of all the services that I have seen the city actually have, this one embodies the best of Palo Alto. So I think that pivoting and finding a role for the theater going forward would be very, very key. So this is the first point I want to make. I think they've got excellent people and an excellent attitude. And so there's a lot of intangible value in there. The second point that I would like, and I'm taking sort of, I have a background in finance. I'm taking sort of a high level, hey, how would we make this work kind of approach? And, one thing I got to say is arts funding across the road is going to go down everywhere. Everywhere that you see in the Valley, you're going to see it across America. And that is going to have a huge impact on mental health. And so I think you've got to make this a focus, because this is clearly one of the better programs we've got arts-wise in the city. So it's got to be a priority for that reason. Now, how do you actually tap into the Children's Theater? I have been very impressed with the Children's Theater, not just because of the quality of the programming they put up, but because of the different kinds of initiatives they've got going on there. One that we have some inkling about is that they go out into some of these other disadvantaged, cities like San Jose and some other places. And they try to either bring those kids in to give them a theater experience, or they work with the schools, they do some outreach kind of stuff. So that is something that they do that's value, that's above and beyond what you see right now. But the other part of it, which is very important, is that they have actually started, kind of collaborating with Stanford's Compression Forum to create a new kind. They were the first theater to try immersive / virtual reality type digital programming. So they've done 2 years of camps for teens with this kind of approach, and I remember thinking that this could be the theater of the future because the audience can participate. I never imagined that if a pandemic comes out, this could be the way the theater looks till people can actually go out for the next 4 or 5 years, till a vaccine comes out and it's out there. Palo Alto could lead the way to show people what can programming look like in this space, and it could reach a lot more people. So I think I would have confidence because they've done it for 2 years and I've worked with these people, and I have confidence that they can deliver a product that could be cutting edge. I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth, but the fact that they've done it for 2 years means that they already have some idea what this could be like. So here we have the beginnings of something that could be truly revolutionary, maybe for the next step, or evolutionary, whatever you guys want to choose, but it could get the job done for making theater reach even more people than it did in the past. So that's one point. The second point I want to make is, for the last few weeks, my kids have been on Zoom with, their school, and the teachers in the school are scrambling because putting stuff online content wise is really hard, but also because, let me tell you, they're so used to having kids corralled in a classroom. And now they have to deal with kids who are on the computers and very distracted with, various things on the computers. And they don't know how to change, how to respond to the situation. They don't know how to change their facial gestures, etc. They have to be more animated to actually, you have to work harder to make yourself interesting when you're not there in person. I think the children's theater could serve as a resource to actually helping our teachers know how do we actually work with kids, because they're experts in that field. So here are two very clear ways I think they need to work with the school district, because those teachers need that help, and these guys are a repository for that. So I'm giving you two ways that this can be tangibly monetized, if you will. Thank you.
Thank you for your thoughts. Joanna, do you want to give kind of a quick introduction to yourself as well as some of your thoughts?
Yeah, I really agree with the other parents' idea that the children's theater do provide a lot of value to the community. I would share a little bit my family's experience with the children's theater. I have two kids. One is 9 years old and the other is 14. So we moved to Palo Alto actually just 2 years ago. But my daughter, the first place she found in love with Palo Alto is children's theater. She attended some summer camps and also other activities. So this is a place where she make friends other than her classmates. And this place makes her feel that there is a connection between her and the city, the community. And indeed, she also encourages her brother, who is 14, to do some voluntary work in children's theater. So personally, I feel that children's theater is kind of a connection for the family, for my family, to have a connection with our community, with the city, because we are new here, but we feel this is our home. So it's really provide a lot of value to the families, at least to families like us. So definitely we want theater can continue and provide a lot of good and high quality courses, activities to the kids. Thank you.
Thank you, Joanna. Okay, so I want to just address some of the comments first. So first of all, we've gotten a ton of email as well as calls on this topic. So there seems to be a lot of support in the community for this service, and people have said incredibly glowing things about it. To the question that I guess Misha's dad mentioned on this in terms of where is it in the budget. So right now, the city overall has like a $700 to $800 million budget. A lot of the revenue that we thought was going to come in is not going to come in. So it was basically trying to figure out how do we make up this kind of revenue shortfall. And there's many different ways. I think one of the biggest ways actually is right now, I think city employees are scheduled to get a 6% or so raise. That's one thing. So it's this employee salaries. That's a big issue. The money can be taken from capital improvement projects. So do we need to build a public safety building now? Or one thing that's going to come up in about a week is tree trimming, right? The tree trimming contract is now 90% more than it used to be. So it's like $14 million when it used to be $8 million. So it's a massive increase in the tree trimming budget. Can we renegotiate the contract, for example, to take money from that? There's a lot of buildings in our city that we don't actually rent out or don't rent out at market rate. Could we make money from that, right? So we have buildings that have been vacant for 20 years that we don't rent out, right? So that's another way for us to make revenue shortfall. There's actually a huge list. I don't want to spend all the time going over it, but there's there's probably at least 30 different areas that we could make up this revenue shortfall from. Staff recommended this as being one of the things to potentially cut. We're cutting the police, and we're cutting fire, and we're cutting lots of other areas. I am very concerned about this particular cut. This is why I'm having office hours on it, to kind of hear everyone's perspective. I think that a lot of people move to our city because of the great educational experience for our youth. I mean, that's why our family moved here, right? I have a 7th grader and a 9th grader, and we moved here for the great education opportunities. And I think that I mean, and this is not the only program. I mean, there's other programs, like I know, like middle school sports, that the fee for that got raised 25%, which to me sounds like a lot. So yeah, so to the question of where does this fall, we're going to have a meeting on Tuesday, which is why I'm holding this, having this session now, because on Tuesday we're going to have more deliberations on it. What do we do? I personally feel that rather than cutting programs like this, it's better to, our city manager office spends about $4 million, right? Like there's a city manager, there's assistant city manager, there's deputy city manager, there's 4 or 5 PR people that just themselves cost us over $1 million a year. So I personally believe that we should get rid of more of the overhead, the things that people in the city don't really see, versus things like the theater that directly impact people, the services that people actually see and use. So I think there's a lot of opportunity to kind of optimize some of the things that aren't as visible to the community, or aren't as, I mean, it's still useful, but not as visible. Like, for instance, if the community had a choice between having 4 or 5 PR people versus the theater, which one is a better choice, right? For me, it seemed like a theater would be a better choice than to have PR people, right? Or there was a proposal to spend about $1.4 million on better graphics for our utility bills. And so should we spend $1.4 million on better graphics for our utility bills, to have prettier graphics for our utility bills, or should we spend it on theater? Well, to me, spending on the theater would seem to make more sense, right? Or, I mean, so I could go on and on and on like this, but basically, there's a lot of things which I think I think shifting the money to things that people actually see and use is far, far more important to me than having on things that are a little bit more, in my mind, superfluous, right? Now, some people might say, oh, having pretty graphics for my utility bills is super important, must have it, right? I don't know, right? There might be some people, I haven't had a lot of people write in about that, but I have had a lot of people write in about the theater, right? And so to me, it's kind of clear. Now I've brought this topic up on council, and people on council have said, oh, no, like it's really important to have PR people. It's really important to have pretty graphics for utility bills. And to me, I mean, this is why I have this meeting, because I'm a representative of the community. So it's really important for me to hear what the community's thoughts are. When I talk to the community, most people, I've never had people tell me, I must have better graphics for my utility bills, or I must have better social media from the city. I've never had people tell me that. So I think some of those things, or like I never had people tell me, oh, we need yet another assistant manager in our city, or another deputy city manager. I never had anyone tell me that, right? And these people cost us $400,000 or $500,000 a year, right? So I've never had anyone tell me that that's really important to have in our city. So anyways, I don't know if I forgot. I only see Misha, so I don't know Misha's. I forgot your name, but I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah. What is the extent of the cut? What is the dollar number that is being cut?
Right now, for the general fund, and the general fund is small. Like our overall budget is like 700-800 million. The general fund is only like 200.
I'm talking about for the children's theater. What is that number?
Oh, how much is being cut from the children's theater? I know you're going to ask that. Actually, I was about to pull it up. So give me 1 second on that. Maybe as I pull up, I know Michelle had a proposal that maybe you could talk about, and I'll pull those numbers up for us. Okay.
Yes.
So,
Sure. From what I understand, they're asking the Children's Theater to cut 1.28 million. Right now, I know that the Children's Theater has put in a proposal to say they could cut $985,000. And that would still allow them to do their programming. Where we would make that money up to is the Friends of the Children Theater. If we would be willing to also give, I think it's about $360,000. And so we could do that for this year. And what that would allow them to do is only increase their full-time equivalent staff. So sorry, it's $340,000. $90,000 would go directly to the city for the city donation. $250,000 would be in-kind support for the Children's Theater. And that would pay for like contractors that they need to hold the classes. They could keep most of their full-time staff on. They would still have a reduction of about, I think it was 3.5 reduction in full-time equivalent staff. So, and they said that they could still provide the programs that they want with that. And that would also allow them to pivot really quickly so that they could then, you know, if things change, open the doors and provide the resources. They would also be able to do a lot of virtual classes and teen as well. Sorry.
Oh, sorry, I didn't keep talking. I just wanted to bring this up so that people could see it, but please keep going.
Okay, so that would allow them to provide the teen curriculum that they're currently doing. Also do some outreach programs as well. So, and then in the beginning of 2021, they would be ready to do some Playhouse productions, some main theater, 2 main theater productions with social distancing measures in place. And they would make sure that they would followed all the rules for that too.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that. And it seems like so do you think that that's a reasonable compromise, Michelle?
I think that's a reasonable compromise. Yeah, that's what they feel like they could do. That's as like, I mean, and they really scrubbed their budget.
Okay. Back to the question of what exactly, so this is from the report that came out on Thursday, and it will be deliberated on Tuesday. Okay, so this coming Tuesday. And just to show you so department budget program, where revenue adjustment, what expense adjustment, what the impact is on the full-time staff, part-time staff, and what effect it has on all funds. So this general fund versus all funds. All funds is like 700-800 million. This is like 200 to 300 million. So this is a subset of all funds. So the theater is right here. This is the current proposal. So this is one of the parking lot items for the city. So so basically, well, I wish I could make this. I wish I could show the headers and this at the same time, but I can't. But so basically, revenue adjustment basically negative 283K, and then expense adjustment 721, right? And the loss of 1 full-time equivalent and 5.09 part-time full-time equivalent. So that's what staff is proposing. So I'd love to get people's reaction to staff's proposal.
So
I have a question.
Sure.
I have a question. So the proposal is on the expense side of it. Is there any consideration to increase the ticket price or enforce some mandatory donation for the actresses?
You know, I don't have that offhand, but I do know that almost like all the fees across the board largely have been increased a lot. I don't know this one in particular. I don't know if Dina is able to look it up while we're talking, but yeah, I do know that they looked at increasing the fees. Like as I mentioned, middle school sports stood out to me because that's increasing by 25%. So I do wonder also about the affordability for some of the people, and whether that's something they could afford, right? To have a 25% increase. I know a lot of people have lost their jobs or got a pay cut, right? So I don't know like how this impacts people, right? In terms of like for instance, we're also raising the gas rates, right? We raised it last year, which was, 8.4% last July. We're going to raise it again. I don't know how that's going to impact people, but yeah, good question. Misha, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I think on terms of the paying for the tickets or paying for being in a show, I think one of the special things about the children's theater is that anybody who wants to be in a show can be in it, and they don't have to pay in order to be in it. And I think a lot of the other theaters in the Bay Area make people pay, and that's why they're not suffering from the budget cuts as much. And I think that because the children's theater allows anybody to participate, maybe we should make extra space or adjustments for it to survive, just like all of the other theaters.
So any other reactions to, thank you, Misha. Any other reactions to this proposal here?
I just want to pipe in, and I just want to reiterate very quickly again, I think I certainly would reject the proposal to cut the budget up to the children's theater, if that needs to be said formally. But I think the key here is that we need to start thinking of theater and performance arts as not a luxury, but a fundamental need for our children who are growing up in a new environment, a highly stressed Silicon Valley, and without good quality theater programming like this, we really are putting them at risk for poor health outcomes. And that's the bottom line. This is as important as getting good health care.
Yeah.
Completely agree.
Hi, I have a quick, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I'll just have a quick comment about this also sets apart our students, the talent development in this, not just in arts and stage performance, but if you think long-term, the public speaking and all of the skills that they're going to use as a future leader, this is critical to our to development of our students.
And Greg, the one thing that I do know, I don't know all the details of the budget, but I do know that
well, this is the details. This is the details right here. This is what they're talking about doing.
Yeah, no, but I'm saying I don't like the theater told me that they can't be able to implement the programming they want with any greater reduction in full-time equivalent staff than over 3.5.
Okay, so this is 5.9. So this is too much.
Right, exactly.
This is actually 6. Actually, it's 1 full-time plus 5 part-time.
Yeah. So
could I quickly just jump in and make a suggestion?
Please.
Because I'm just echoing, taking from I think the other lady who spoke about how theater is not to be viewed as a luxury item but an essential. I feel that we are at that point where we could actually take advantage of the fact that the theater is now going digital to actually reach more people. If you look at what's actually happening, their model is going from a sort of scalable, the more people who attend a performance, the more money you make. It's going from that to more of a fixed cost model, which could have a much wider reach. And in the city, because we know that, the reports have started coming out because of mental health issues, what's happening to people with their pay cuts and so on and so forth. Somewhere you guys must have a budget for mental health and for other such resources. And I'm saying, explicitly make it that you take a part of that budget towards the arts in general, and use the fact that the theater is going online to try to reach more people. I'm actually saying keep the costs lower and work with these people who are exceptionally talented and motivated to make a difference to actually reach more people within Palo Alto.
Good feedback. Thank you. Yeah, I think that for me, trying to ensure that as many of these services, especially ones that are very important to the community, like the theater, are not severely impacted versus like, for instance, I don't know, like if we were to delay the building of the public safety building by 1 year, right? It's been talked about for like, I don't know, 20 years, for a long time. If we delay it by a year, you know, it's a very big project, $100+ million type project, right? Um, it could probably make up for this, right?
Yeah,
Or like,
Yeah.
that
or
seems like
like,
a great one.
That's
or
a great
like,
idea, Greg.
yeah, or like I know that right now there's currently a plans to build a bridge over 101, but it just started. Do we have to? I mean, do we have to do it now? Or there's
Right.
other kind of capital projects that if we just delay a little bit, you don't have to. It doesn't have to have the massive
Mhm.
impact on on um, on the services that people cherish in the city.
Right.
So anyway, it just seems like a better trade-off. Um, I mean,
Yeah.
the other thing to think about is I think last year we spent like $8.4 million on overtime, right? I mean, perhaps using this, rather than having the money for overtime, maybe we should use the money for these kind of services, right? Even right now for this year, I think the budget for overtime is like something like $4 million or something. It's a substantial amount of money.
Mhm.
And I don't know whether that's the right place to have the money, to have that much amount of overtime versus trying to invest in programs that I think people would really cherish.
Well, also during this time, Greg, I mean, the teens are struggling. They're
Mhm.
struggling to find a way to connect. They're trying to, and the children that like, whether it's from the production end or the acting end, this is a home for them. And these are children sometimes that are more at risk too, that don't have anywhere else to go. So I think now is the time not to cut this resource in our community. So I love your idea about taking maybe a bigger investment and just delaying it
Mhm.
until funds
So
come back.
I mean, so there's other things like I know that like the city was investing like 300K or something in building a solar calculator on the website to tell you whether your house should have solar or not. But basically, there's about 50 others on the websites already that are free, right? So do we need to spend $300,000 on a solar calculator, or can we invest in a theater? Or I talked about the utility bills, which to me is a little bit unconscionable that we're even thinking about
Right.
doing this cutting programs like this. I mean, the city manager is going to get a $4 million house. I mean, can it be in Los Altos, city manager got a $2 million house. Can he get a $2 million house instead of $4 million house, right? Maybe that's a more reasonable choice, right? Um, so yeah, and there's things on the revenue side we could do. Like I said, we could also perhaps rent out some of the buildings that are vacant right now or under rented, right? Perhaps. Um, but I don't know. Does anyone have any other ideas or suggestions around this topic?
I think that you have very good ideas.
Mhm.
You really understand what's important, and I'm so happy to hear that because you will present it with a lot of passion, and I'm relieved that you understand so well.
Thank you, Betsy. Yeah, no, I think a lot of people don't attend city council meetings, right? But they use the children's theater, right? Or they use um, the parks, right? Or they use the libraries, right? So to me, it's important to try to preserve as many of these services that people really use.
Yeah.
Because I know, like, I think the reason why they want to have a large city manager's office is because for the people that interact a lot with City Hall, right? But most people, I think, aren't attending city council meetings, right? Most people are really using the services. And so to me, making sure that part gets preserved versus having, an assistant and a deputy city manager and, a multitude of PR people and social media people. To me, it just seems like the money that we spent there could be shifted to other places that are more valued by the community.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
so
Greg,
many people in the community, because we haven't even mentioned numbers, but I mean, hundreds and Judge was saying something about 800 people, participating in the classes right now that they, during the pandemic. It's like, plus all these other services that they're doing, outreach and all kinds of things for the schools and their dance program.
Yeah.
It's so many people,
Yeah.
so many teens who really need it.
Yeah, I mean, there's over 100 participants, it says, and 50,000 audience members. So you just think
Yeah.
about this money, right? Versus like spending $1.4 million in utility bills, which I don't know if people actually even look at the graphics on the utility bills,
No.
right? Which is
Sorry to
double it.
interrupt, but we're very over time.
Okay.
And one last
Right,
question:
okay.
how can we support you, Greg, on
Yeah.
Tuesday's meeting? You have such a great idea, and I think everyone on the call is aligned. What's the
Well,
best way to?
I think it's important to call in, email in. You know, I think that those are things. I think if you, I mean, I just mentioned a handful of things. Like for instance, if you rather have this theater versus having the public safety building built earlier, it's good to say. Or if you rather have the theater versus having better graphics for utility bills, it's a good thing to say, right?
Yeah.
Or if you rather have this versus having, you know, a few more highly paid $400,000 or $500,000 people in the city manager's office, you know, you could say that, right? Or if you rather have this instead of a solar calculator on a website, good to say, right? Or if you rather you have this versus, you know, $8.4 million worth of overtime. There's so many other trade-offs we can make
Okay.
that could support that. And I think, you know, I made the motion to cut the number of people in our city manager office because we have for our city of 65,000 people, we have an immense city manager office. It's a very, very big city manager office. Do we need to have so many in our city? For every manager, we have something like 4 employees. Do we need to do that? I mean, could we have one manager for every 7 employees, right? And keep the people who are actually doing the work versus do you need more managers? I don't know. I mean, most places I've been at, it's like 1 to 7, 1 to 8, right? 1 to 4 seems like a lot of overhead, you know? So would you rather have more managers or rather have the children's theater, right? I think for me, most people would say, well, let's have the children's theater, right?
What was the building that you said? I couldn't understand.
Public safety building. So we have a police station, but they're thinking about building a new one, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, if it's delayed by a year or two, is it, you know, could we
write about it? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So these are the kind of things that I think it's important for my colleagues to hear. You know, what's more important? It's more important to have. By the way, it was a 2 to 5 vote on that, right? It's more important to have a big city manager office, or better to invest some of that money on the services that the community uses, right?
Also, just very last point, just prioritizing. I don't think anybody would disagree that children's health should be at the top of our list of priorities. And this really does support that. So I think that's, for me, that's sort of where the biggest
yes
makes sense, just to keep in mind.
Well, I think most people move to the city for the kids, right? I mean, I know I did, right? I know my family did, and I know a lot of people do, right? And so to me, to not take care of kids, it just seems, you know, like to prioritize a solar calculator over kids, like what? Right?
Yeah.
Or, you know, we're gonna spend $2.1 million on council upgrades, like make council chambers more fancy. Do we need to do that? Do we need to have? No, we have a really already pretty nice council chambers. Do we need to spend another $2-3 million on that to have fancy curtains and fancy screens coming down? I don't know. I mean, especially since we're all using Zoom, is that really important? I don't know. I mean, I think there's maybe better ways of spending money, right?
Right.
I mean, do we have to give raises this year? I mean, a lot of people are taking pay cuts, right? The consumer price index dropped 0.8%. Do we have to? I mean, is it really important to do raises? I don't know. I mean, it just seems like maybe there's other ways of doing it.
And also the consequences of ignoring our children is huge. We've already seen that. We don't want to go back there. We've already, we've got to go forward. Yeah.
So Vienna has already told me we're like super overtime now, but this is a very important topic. So thank you for everyone for participating and stay involved. And but thank you so much for taking time out of your day today to chat.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.